The death penalty shouldn't exist, not because it goes against human rights, but because it's unfair that they get away so easy for what they have done. A lot of people are against death penalty because they say it's a violation of the right to live, but I think that it should not exist, not because of that, but because it's really unfair that a lot of people who are just monsters who killed or raped others in such a horrible way that sent them to die is literally, get away with it. I even think that being incarcerated it's not enough. I mean, being on death row means having a lot of facilities just for being in there. They have all the meals, they can go out to the patio, I even think they have their own room and even have TV. I think that people that are convicted to death row, instead of being killed, they should live as long as they can but with a very miserable life for what they have done. To be honest, the only reason I'm against the death penalty is because of how many people get wrongly convicted, especially after seeing the waves of inmates going free after the introduction of DNA testing. You can try to make up for wrongly imprisoning someone for 10 to 20 years, but you can't make up for killing them. I used to think that the death penalty let them off too easily, and then I reached an age where dying became a constant worry in the back of my mind. Dead is dead forever, existing no more. I can't think of a more terrifying punishment if you have any desire to continue being. The issues with any form of retaliatory punishment are pretty simple. Firstly, miscarriages of justice do occur, and if you are, as it seems you are advocating, essentially forcing those found guilty to endure horrific conditions, you're accepting that it's an inevitability that you'll be essentially subjecting innocent people to torturous conditions at times. The second, and arguably more important issue is that the way we treat others, even convicted criminals, has a direct impact on the kind of society we are. This style of justice isn't rehabilitation designed to reintegrate, but simply to punish. When that is the system, typically you would expect recidivism to increase. US vs Scandinavian prison models and their associated reoffending and rehabilitation levels as a good example. If you treat people like animals, they aren't simply going to end their punishment and get a job, they'll be worse and worse still, they'll have a chip on their shoulder towards the state. I understand the idea that people need to be punished when they do horrific things, but really I think we are past the concept of draconianism now, and a good justice system needs to be one that removes dangerous people from society and certainly does offer some sort of deterrent, but really should focus on causes at an early stage and trying to put convicted criminals into a position where they understand their error, where perhaps they need to change, and let them leave prison with skills that will keep them from reoffending. Also, so many innocent people have been executed for crimes they didn't commit or were executed because of racism and hatred. Sounds cruel, maybe even a little unusual. In some countries like Norway for example, they take all considerations when sentencing a person. More focus goes on making that person a contributing member of society instead of turning them into caged animals. Recidivism rates are some of the lowest. The U.S. has high recidivism rates and the justice system creates and alienates convicted criminals. I'm not saying some people aren't monsters, and they should be dealt with, but the majority of criminals are out of necessity, upbringing, and even murders happen in heat of the moment. Is it right? No. Should every person be painted with the same brush? No. Something should be said for actually wanting to change a person. Locking people up in crowded and violent warehouses is not the answer. 2020, we should start talking about actually changing people. Mentally ill or criminally insane people don't belong in jails. They belong in a secure hospital setting with trained staff. Those folks sadly are a danger to others and themselves with little chance of helping. Jail is not a place for them. But happens all the time. Are you advocating torture? Also, it's expensive AF for the state seek the death penalty. Lots of factors at play, but mostly publicity of the case attracts the most expensive defense lawyers, for discount because free advertising, and the state has to counter. But justice isn't about making culprits suffer, it is about dealing with problems. The person is a problem they need to get removed, not the person is monstrous they need to rightfully suffer for their deeds. But is the point of any penalty retaliation? I thought the point of putting people in jail was to prevent them from coming to the society and change them while they are in jail, and death sentence is given since people who commit some crimes will not improve. Also, if someone is wrongfully convicted and get the death penalty, well, that's just not fair. Yeah, that, but human rights as well. Human rights are not something you have to believe in. It is just envisioned. I would not die for my beliefs, as I may have been wrong. This is exactly the border where social construct comes in and starts a civilizations. Exactly why we don't want Punisher vigilantes out in the streets. One alone shouldn't define man's fate. One may be wrong. One can be framed. Even if we are in hypothetical situation where we are sure, which is almost never possible. If we allow that little regress in human civilization, we start a precedence. First they only brutally kill psychos and pedophiles. Then we radicalize in some way and we kill, for let's say abortion. Human rights, death one in particular, is first of all a guarantee. Not to a criminal but to citizen oneself. Guarantee he can sleep well, as in civilized country he will never be put to tortures and death sentence. / just a random lawyer from Europe place where human rights actually work. P.S. Also, if you wondered, one thing that makes a lawyer is his ability to perceive law not as a punishment but a tool to resocialization. Good judges are exactly the ones who withstand the vox populi / voice of the common people. Good judge is the one who does decision with his just mind, not the rage or the will of revenge. P.S.S. Ever heard of ours witch trials? This comes from a basic misunderstanding of the purpose of the criminal justice system. The purpose of jail time is not to simply cause harm to someone who harmed someone else. It is not just punishment out of some foolish desire for revenge. It is done with the intent of either rehabilitation, to bring the person in line with societal function, or replaced with the death penalty because it is acknowledged that the individual cannot be rehabilitated and must simply be removed for the sake of society. It is for the sake of the common good. Personal morality doesn't enter into it.